Doesn't that look yummy? That is a scalloped potato roll. And we're going to try and duplicate it. Not very well. There's mine, not quite as crispy, but oh so delicious. So let's get to it right now. How about ingredients? We need a bunch of potatoes, some grated Parmesan, that's about 2 cups, ground beef, spinach, an onion, tomatoes, diced tomatoes, salt and pepper to taste, a little bit of paprika, and some olive oil. Of course, we're also missing ricotta cheese and mozzarella and a couple other things, but we'll get to them later. Now, we've taken our potato, we peeled them all. Now we've got to slice them very thinly. And I really hope that's thin enough for what we're doing. If you've got a mandolin, you're not afraid of slicing your fingers off, you can use that to get them thin enough. You want them thin so they're flexible, but not too flexible. Well, there's our potatoes. We're going to put them in a bowl, bring our baking sheet with some parchment paper on it, and I'm just kind of getting a feel for how many potatoes I've got. You want to cover the bottom of that baking sheet. So I think we've got enough there to do what we need to do. Well, back into the bowl we go for now. And we have to build our potato base. That's pretty cool the way you do it. So onto the parchment paper, we're going to put, we have 2 cups of grated Parmesan. So we're going to put 1 cup, spread it out. I probably would have put a little more than that. Maybe even throw a little mozzarella, because this is the glue for your potatoes. Now you're going to take your potatoes and you're going to overlap each of them. And as you're coming down the rows, you're going to overlap them too. So it's all going to be one big potato by the time you're done, really. So there, we've got a nice sheet of potatoes with the cheese on the bottom. Now we're going to put the rest of the cheese on top. Try to be as even as possible. And once again, I probably would have put just a little extra, maybe mozzarella on it to hold together. This is going in the oven, 350 for 30 minutes until golden brown. Now, I've taken them out at the 30-minute mark, and you can see they're just starting to get golden brown. I probably should have kept them in another 10 to 15 minutes. So you do want that nice golden brown thing. I think I was just kind of jumping the gun at this point. Never done it before, learn for next time. Into a strainer goes our can of diced tomatoes. You just want some of the liquid to drain out. And tomatoes are watery to begin with, but you want to kind of keep that to a minimum. There's our pound of ground beef. Chop that baby down. Once that's done, throw in, that's close to a cup of diced onions. You want a small dice to them. We're going to mix that around until it's all nice and cooked. Always smells good. And now into the mix goes our diced tomatoes. A little bit of salt. A little bit of pepper. Always to your taste, of course. If you want to go easy on it, go easy on it. I like a little extra pepper, but that's just me. Oh, and that can of pepper was just about done, so I was just trying to get the very end of it out. Onto our paprika, a good teaspoon of that. Ought to do. And we're just going to give her a mix around. And let that all kind of cook and infuse for a little bit. Now that is chopped parsley. About 3 or 4 tablespoons full. That's just going to give it a little extra color and flavor. Looks good so far. We've let it simmer for 10 minutes or so. Now we're going to take it off, put it into a pan. And you can see I'm trying to strain some of the liquid off because we don't really need that right now. But I am going to clean that pan just like that. Ta-da! Throw a little extra olive oil in it. And we are going to cook our spinach now. Well, I always love spinach because you start out with a ton and you end up with nothing. So we want in the neighborhood of 6 cups. Basically fill that pan full, which is about a half of that bag. It always seems like a lot, but you know, by the time when you're done, there's not a whole lot left. So carefully cook it around, and of course you spray spinach all over the place. I'll have to pick that up. And you can see how it just wilts down into, I think by the time we're done, it's going to wilt down to just over a cup of spinach cooked. That's a teaspoon of minced garlic, another teaspoon of salt, to taste of course. And of course we're going to mix all this together. And we're going to put that aside. Okay, into a bowl, our nice and just wilted down spinach. And to that, this is ricotta, 1 cup of ricotta. I guess you could use cottage cheese if you wanted to, but for this one, this works out just fine. You want to combine all that together because that's going to be a layer of our scalloped potato roll. So here we are. Here's our pan of potatoes and our cheese mixture, cheese and spinach mixture. So like I said, you know, in the future, I've let this cool down so I could handle it. I probably would have cooked it another 10 or 15 minutes just to get it crispier. So it's got a good brown on it. This was okay. Taste-wise, it was really good. And I'm not much of a scalloped potato guy. But as far as holding together, I got a little bit to learn. So we've laid out our spinach and cheese mix, keeping about 1 inch around each side. So it looks pretty like that. Next layer is our ground beef, and the same thing again. Spread it all out, but keep that inch along the sides nice and open. Looks good so far. And now for our mozzarella. This is supposed to be 1 cup of mozzarella. I think I put a little more than that in there, which is okay, because you can't have enough cheese. So there we go. Looks good. Now the hard part is actually getting it to roll. So you got to be really careful, and somehow it's got to go back in the oven. So I got to be careful. See, look at it on the bottom. The bottom looks a lot browner than it does on the top. So we're going to carefully roll this. Oh yeah. If anything, it smells pretty good. Well, by the time we're done, we should have our scallop roll without it completely falling apart. And that was my big concern, is that it's going to fall apart. And that's why I'm thinking the extra cheese would probably help bind it all together. Or if you had even thinner potatoes, it would work. But for a first timer, you know, it worked out. Okay, yeah, I'll never make it in the picture catalogs. But I'm always going for taste over prettiness anyway. So it doesn't look all that pretty, but it'll do. I was going to put another piece of parchment down, but I thought this thing's too big and heavy. I'm just going to kind of slide it in the middle, and we're just going to cook it on what it's on. All right, careful, careful. There we go. It's pretty good. I got it to work. Okay. Now this has to go, uh-oh. See how it's starting to fall apart a little bit? This has to go back in the oven another 15 minutes. And now you can see it's even more golden. I wish I would have started with it like that and then cooked it some more, but that's okay. Look at that. We've got it on a plate with a fork. Now the only thing left to do is get in there, give it a try. Hey, another great recipe. I hope you'll give it a try. Leave me a comment below, one way or the other. Listen, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell because that'll tell you the next time I upload a video. Feel free to share this in any of my other videos. And thanks for stopping by and watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.